When Amanda met Daniel, she thought she had found the man of her dreams. He was rich, charming, and treated her like a queen. But what she didn't know was that beneath his wealth and charisma lay a dark secret. The evening after their wedding, she looked at her husband with admiration.
I still can't believe I'm your wife. It's like a dream come true, Amanda said.
Daniel smiled warmly and reassured her. You deserve it, my love. I told you, I'll give you the life you've always wanted, Daniel replied.
He blushed, looking around their luxurious mansion. She had grown up in a modest home, so this kind of wealth felt surreal. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. After a brief silence, she hesitated before speaking again.
But, Daniel, I've been meaning to ask. You never talk about your business. What exactly do you do? Amanda asked.
Daniel's expression remained calm, but his answer was vague.
Investment, real estate, and some international deals. It's nothing to worry about, sweetheart. Just enjoy your new life, Daniel replied.
She noticed the lack of details, but decided not to press further. After all, Daniel was an incredible husband. He provided everything she wanted. One night, however, everything changed. Amanda woke up in the middle of the night to find Daniel missing from their bed. A strange noise echoed from downstairs. Her heart pounded slowly. She crept down the stairs, careful not to make a sound. She called out softly.
Daniel, are you there? Amanda asked.
She followed the eerie glow of candlelight coming from the basement, a place Daniel had forbidden her to enter. Her breath hitched when she heard murmuring. It wasn't in any language she recognized. Curiosity and fear pushed her forward. She peeked through the slightly open door, and what she saw made her stomach churn. Daniel stood in the middle of a strange circle drawn on the floor, surrounded by burning candles. A lifeless body lay in front of him, blood dripping from a dagger in his hand. Amanda gasped in horror.
Amanda, what are you doing here? Daniel shouted.
Daniel's voice was sharp, filled with anger and panic. Amanda stumbled backward, her hands covering her mouth, struggling to process what she had just seen. Her body trembled as she forced herself to speak.
Well, what is this, Daniel? What are you doing? Amanda asked.
Daniel's face darkened. His expression was no longer the warm and loving husband she knew. Instead, he looked like a man she had never met before.
You shouldn't have come here, Daniel shouted.
Fear surged through Amanda's veins. She turned and ran, desperate to escape the horrifying scene. Her only thought was to get out of the house, out of this nightmare. But before she could reach the door, strong hands grabbed her from behind.
You're not going anywhere, Amanda, Daniel said.
Amanda struggled, kicking and screaming as she fought to free herself.
Let me go. You're a monster, Amanda shouted.
Daniel tightened his grip, his voice eerily calm despite the chaos. I didn't want you to find out this way, Daniel said. Tears streamed down Amanda's face as she continued to fight against him. Her heart pounded violently in her chest.
You're killing people? Is this how you got all your wealth? Amanda asked.
Daniel sighed as if he were exhausted from explaining himself. Yes, but you don't understand. Everything I did was for us, for you, Daniel said.
I don't want this. I want to leave, Amanda said.
Daniel's grip didn't loosen. Instead, his fingers dug deeper into her skin.
You think I can just let you go? You know too much now, Daniel said.
Amanda's breath hitched. His words sent a chill down her spine. She realized then that Daniel had no intention of letting her go. She had only one choice: fight for her life. Summoning all her strength, she drove her elbow into Daniel's ribs. He groaned in pain, loosening his grip just enough for her to break free. She ran, but before she could reach the front door, a figure appeared. Daniel's loyal servant, Musa.
You can't leave, madam, Musa said.
Masta, please. Let me go, Amanda pleaded.
I'm sorry, but Master won't allow that, Musa said.
Daniel stepped forward, his expression unreadable. Don't fight this, Amanda. You're my wife. You belong here, Daniel said. Amanda's knees nearly gave out. She had made a terrible mistake marrying this man, but she wasn't going to let him decide her fate. Summoning all her courage, she lunged for the nearest object, a vase, and hurled it at Musa. It shattered against his head, giving her just enough time to dash out the door. She ran into the cold night, her heart pounding as Daniel's furious screams echoed behind her.
You'll never escape me, Amanda, Daniel shouted.
Please help me. Someone is trying to kill me, Amanda said.
The old woman's wrinkled face twisted with concern as she glanced outside. Before she could respond, the sound of screeching tires made Amanda's stomach drop. A black SUV pulled up outside. Daniel had found her. A deep voice called from the car.
Amanda, open the door. Don't make this difficult, Daniel said.
Amanda's entire body shook as she backed away from the entrance. The old woman whispered, motioning toward the back of the shop. "There's a back door. Run, child," the old woman said. Amanda didn't hesitate. She dashed through the small exit, sprinting into the night. Just as she rounded a corner, piercing sirens filled the air. Police cars sped toward the shop, their flashing lights illuminating the darkness. Daniel's SUV took off in the opposite direction, disappearing into the night. Amanda fell to her knees, gasping for breath as officers approached her. One of them crouched beside her and spoke gently. "Are you all right, miss? What happened?" the officer asked.
My husband, he's a killer. He does rituals. I saw everything, Amanda said.
The officers exchanged glances before one of them pulled out a notepad. "All right, ma'am, come with us to the station. You'll be safe there," the officer said. Amanda nodded weakly. At the station, she told them everything: the basement, the body, the rituals. She begged them to arrest Daniel before he found her again. But then, a man walked in. A tall, well-dressed lawyer with a briefcase. He adjusted his glasses and addressed the officers with a firm voice. "My client has reported his wife missing. He's very worried about her safety," the lawyer said. Amanda's blood ran cold.
He's lying. He's the one trying to kill me, Amanda shouted.
The officer sighed and looked at her with sympathy. "We can't keep you here unless you press charges, and without evidence, there's no case," the officer said. Amanda's hands clenched into fists. She couldn't believe this was happening. Daniel had covered his tracks too well. She needed proof. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to calm down and spoke in a low voice.
Fine, I'll go with the lawyer, Amanda said.
But she had no intention of going back to Daniel. The moment she stepped outside, she ran. She had to get proof, and there was only one place to get it. She was going back to the mansion. Amanda knew she was taking a huge risk by going back to the mansion, but she had no choice. If she didn't find proof of Daniel's crimes, he would continue to walk free, and she would never truly escape him. She hid in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. The mansion was heavily guarded with security cameras at every corner. Taking a deep breath, she whispered to herself. "You can do this, Amanda," Amanda said. She crawled through a narrow gap in the fence, careful not to make a sound. The house was silent, but she knew Daniel was somewhere inside. She needed to get to the basement. Moving quickly, she slipped through the back door and tiptoed down the dimly lit hallway. Her heart pounded as she reached the locked basement door. She whispered under her breath as she searched for something to break the lock.
Come on, there has to be a way, Amanda said.
Then she spotted a metal rod near the staircase. Grabbing it, she pried at the lock with all her strength. The lock snapped open with a sharp crack, making her freeze in place. Had anyone heard that? She held her breath. Silence. Slowly, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. What she saw nearly made her collapse. The basement was filled with ritualistic symbols, skulls, and blood-stained robes. In the center of the room, a large book lay open on an altar. And then, her stomach churned. There was another body, fresh. Tears filled her eyes as she pulled out her phone and took pictures as quickly as she could. This was the proof she needed. Just as she turned to leave, a deep voice echoed behind her. "I knew you'd come back, Amanda," Daniel said. Amanda whirled around, her hands shaking as she gripped her phone tightly. "You're sick, Daniel. The world will know who you really are," Amanda shouted.
Daniel chuckled, stepping closer. "And what do you think will happen, my love? Who do you think they'll believe? A woman running around in fear or a powerful businessman?" Daniel asked.
Amanda refused to let his words shake her. She pressed the send button on her phone. Amanda stood tall, her voice steady.
I just sent everything to the police. It's over, Daniel, Amanda said.
For the first time, Daniel's confidence wavered. His eyes darkened with fury, and he lunged toward her. Amanda ducked, grabbing a small knife from the altar. She slashed wildly, catching his arm. "Ah, you little—" Daniel shouted. Amanda didn't wait to see what he'd do next. She bolted up the stairs, running for her life. She burst through the front door just as sirens filled the night air. Police cars skidded to a stop outside the mansion. Officers poured out, guns drawn. One officer shouted orders. "Daniel Mensah, put your hands in the air!" You're under arrest, the officer said. Daniel staggered out of the house, his face pale. He looked at Amanda, his eyes filled with rage. You betrayed me, Daniel said.
You never loved me, Daniel. You only wanted control. Now you'll pay for everything, Amanda said.
The officers grabbed Daniel and shoved him into the police car. Amanda let out a shaky breath as the realization sank in. It was finally over. She was free. Tears of relief streamed down her face as an officer spoke gently. Oh, you're safe now, ma'am. He won't hurt you again, the officer said. Amanda nodded, knowing that her nightmare had finally come to an end. And as she walked away from the mansion, she whispered to herself, I survived, Amanda said, and she would never look back.